Hey everyone, welcome back to Coding Mom. In previous tutorial, we have learned how you can set up LangChain agent or you can say LangGraph agent using Next.js, right? So we are building an application where we can use LangChain and LangGraph in JavaScript application, and we are going to build agent which can talk with your SQL database, right? So in previous tutorial, we have learned few things, how you can create a SQL query out of natural language. So I'm going to recap few things. So we have created one endpoint, which is calling basically a write query function. And before coming to write query, let's see what we have done. So we have created this OpenAI service, and it just contains an instance of LangChain OpenAI module. So we are using this SQL query system prompt from LangChain Hub, and this prompt will be using to create a system prompt which can be fed to LLM, and LLM will give us an answer, and that will be SQL query. So I'm going to show you what this prompt contains. I think we have already seen into previous tutorial, but I'm going to log this prompt, whole prompt, and you'll be able to see what data it contains. We also have this state.ts file which contains two states. One is input and another one is an output state. So this state we are going to feed to write query function, and we'll be getting some response to that write query, and we are going to get the query out of this write query function. So we have this Zod schema, and this schema we want as an output, right? So we are creating this with structured output, and we are passing this schema. So we are telling an LLM that we only want our answer in this format only. After that, we have this write query function, and we are calling this get query prompt template. So we are having this prompt template here, and we are passing a couple of things here. So we are passing get table info function, our question, and we are calling this invoke function of this query prompt template function, or you can say module. And after that, we'll have a whole prompt built here. Now we'll ask an LLM to generate a query based on this prompt. So these are the things we have built in our previous tutorial. So we'll be moving forward, and our end goal of this tutorial will be to generate a query which we can run against database, and we can feed that results to the LLM, and we have answer in natural language, right? So that is the goal of this tutorial, and that we are going to learn and implement. So let's get started. So let's run one query against our database. So what are the most expensive movies? So let's see what LLM does for us. So it has created a query which is basically running against film table. So I'm going to run this query here, and I'm going to see these are the top 10 film which is most expensive, right? So if we go into log, you'll be able to see here that this is the prompt I was talking about, and that prompt we are getting from here, right? So we are pulling that prompt, and we are calling that invoke method of this prompt template, and as a result we are getting this prompt value, right? So that is here. Given an input question, create a syntactically correct Postgres query to run to help find an answer, right? Unless the user specify in his question a specific number of example they wish to obtain. So this is a very elaborative prompt, and what we are feeding into this is we are going to pass a schema of all the tables we have in database and couple of example records as well. So this prompt we are going to pass to LLM, and as a result we'll be getting this query. So we are passing this prompt to the OpenAI's GPT-4o model, and in result we are getting this query, right? So let's move on to other steps, and that would be, let's go to our documentation, and now our goal is to execute this query, right? So let me copy this function and create new file called execute query, and we'll need to define this state here, and we are going to export. Again, we'll be needing this database, and I think we'll need just db maybe. Let's see if that works, right? So we are going to execute this query, and we are also going to call this execute query function. So let's go here, in our route. Let's comment this out. And we are going to pass query here. And I'm going to pass same query we have ran here. And all right, I think we are done. And we are going to get some result here. And let's see how it goes. So we should have some answer here. So if I run same thing again, and I should be getting the results. So it's in a object array format. So it means that this execute query function is working well. So now let's move on to another step, and which is related to generate an answer. So I'm going to copy this again and create new file called generate answer. I'm going to export it, and I'm going to all right, I think we have this OpenAI. We are using that. We are passing new prompt, which is giving the following user question corresponding SQL query, and SQL result answer the question, right? So we are going to get the answer in very natural language query. So now we also have this generate answer function. Now all these functions are kind of separate from each other, right? So now what we are going to do is we don't want to directly just call, like first call this function and feed output to this function. We want to define a graph, right? And this graph can contain multiple conditions as well. But as our use case is very simple here, we are not going to build multiple branching related things. You can define nodes and edges and what node is going to call by what other node. There can be manager nodes, there can be like supervisor nodes as well. So all these things, all this architecture you can define in your LangGraph. But here we are going to define very simple LangGraph, which executes all these steps one by one and feed output of one call to another call. So let's go to our documentation again and let's create this graph. So if we go here, I'm going to create a graph.ts, and I'm going to basically import all the stat and functions. So what it is doing is we are adding a one node called write query. We are adding new node called execute query. We are adding generate answer node as well. We are going to start our graph from the write query, and we have edges from write query to execute query to generate answer, and generate answer to end. So this is our last step, and there our graph ends, right? So now we have this graph here, and what we can do is we can also compile our graph and export it here only. So we're going to compile that, and I think we should convert this into a function. So convert to function, and that's it. Let's see what are the next steps. And now we have input, right? And we have output. So if I go here in our route, what I'm going to do is we have a question. Let me see what was it. It is message. I'm going to remove all this code and graph.invoke. So I'm going to import our graph here, and what I'm going to do is just graph.invoke, and I will have a response, and response will have answer, right? Answer. So I think that's it, but make sure you define your graph in a proper manner. For example, you want to do a branching, so you can add one more node and have like complicated architecture, like execute query will be calling another second level query, and then second level query will be generating the answer, right? So that you can build your own kind of architecture, how you want to do branching. So it's kind of a very flexible when you are building a graph, but this is the idea, right? So let's now go to our UI and again ask the same question and give me 2 names maybe, and let's see. So it's thinking and it's going back and forth on the LLM side, and we have an answer. So the 2 most expensive movies are Gross Wonderful and Chamber Italian. Both are rental rate of $499. So if we go here, it is basically giving these 2 movies, and because all these movies have a same rate, it is giving us this 2 movie based on its sorting order. We can also print which queries is being executed. So we already have this write query function, you know already, right? And we can print the query as well if you want here. So result, and if I do some other query like what are the most rented movies, and we'll be getting that answer as well. So this is the query which is generated by LLM, and if we go here, we'll be getting some error because we need to basically write a query in a proper format. So we'll need to do something like this, right? And I don't want to spend my time into this, but we have got our answer. The most rented movies are as follows. The Bucket rented 34 times, Rocketeer Mother it's 33 times, and so on, right? We can format this response that's more on the front end side. You can like install the markdown plugin and you'll be able to format this properly because it's a markdown code only, right? So I think you can ask any kind of question which is related to this database and you will be able to get an answer, right? So that's the beauty of LLM, right? You can, even if you don't know the SQL, you just ask a question and it will convert your query into SQL and you will have an answer in natural language, right? So that's the beauty of agents and agentic workflow, right? And this tutorial was focused on JavaScript and Next.js. So now you can see that how you can build basically agentic application using Next.js as well. You don't need to depend on Python and Python ecosystem. I like the Python personally because it has a very big ecosystem into machine learning and AI. But if you are a JavaScript developer, you don't need to worry about. You have all the modules and library available into ecosystem. So you can get started, I think, right? So this was about this tutorial, building agents using LangChain, LangGraph, and Next.js. So I think this was it for this tutorial. If this video has been helpful, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and hit the bell icon. We'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.